Hey, folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And today we're going to quote someone who sadly is kind of forgotten in history, somebody that a lot of people aren't going to recognize his name. And I'll have to do a little bit of explaining. But I think that it's worth it because I think that his ideas and the things that he put forward are they could very much be like the guardrails, the guidelines that we use if we were ever able to rally the support to actually change the systems here in America or really around the world. If we were ever able to kind of change things, which that may be a fantasy, but even if it's not, these would be great guardrails, like an understanding of some of the concepts that he put forward. Now, like I said, his name is largely forgotten, but one of the reasons his name is largely forgotten is because there's philosophers that came after him that took his ideas and somewhat watered them down or bastardized them. A name that pops up often when you talk about him is Ayn Rand, who I'm not a big fan of, and a lot of other libertarian type philosophers that have kind of taken his message and turned it into something that he wouldn't necessarily have appreciated, but nonetheless they kind of use it. Now, the man I'm talking about, and I know that I'm going to say his name, and I want to hold it with some regard, but many of you, like I said, are not going to know who the hell I'm talking about. The man who was born today, his name is Auberon Herbert. Now, Auberon Herbert was, I mean, he was born in 18, I want to say 38. I could be wrong about that, but in that area. So a lot of the things that he put forward, he was a absolute supporter of women's suffrage. He, in his lifetime, came over and fought in the Civil War on the Union side. He absolutely, at every single point in his life, up to a certain point. Now, keep in mind, he was born to aristocracy. He was born with money. So this is a man that kind of turned his back on that. Not, I mean, not really. He used it, but ended up talking about how to better everyone, like the poor and everyone else. This was something that he valued highly and that he was important to him. And where he arrives is an understanding that he ended up calling voluntaryism. And basically, I can't. There's no way I could fit this in a 10-minute video. But it's basically the idea that each of us as individuals, every single person on the planet, is self-owning, that we are our own being, we are our own thing, right? Like we own everything about ourselves, and anything that kind of tries to take control of that is an infringement. Is anything that uses any sort of force, whether directly or indirectly, on us to cause us to do things that we wouldn't necessarily do on our own, something that makes us, want to behave in a way that we wouldn't behave, is an infringement. And the idea is that when everybody has this way of thinking, that you start to understand the word consent actually means something. We throw it around a lot in certain uses today, but the idea of consent goes well beyond bedroom activities. It goes beyond living, understanding, being. The idea that you need to sign consent, basically, not literally with a pen, but you need to sign consent over any of the actions that are taken in your life. And when you start to think that way, you start to recognize something that has been a recurring message here. As a matter of fact, I made a video about it today, of the way that the state and the systems around us that we have all empowered take that consent away, right? Like, we understand that paying your taxes is something that we have to do. Now, this is something that Auberon Herbert spoke out about all the time. It was one of the most egregious things that he talked about, where the idea of taxation, something that you don't necessarily want to do, and turns you essentially, in the eyes of the government, into essentially a number, takes away your autonomy, takes away your ability to move and live in the world that you'd want to live. And there's always this idea of the greater good, and he spoke out against that idea of the greater good, because in his mind, how can it be a greater good? How can the opinions of 100,000 people, this is not a direct quote or anything, but how can the ideas of 100,000 people infringe upon or be more important than the idea and the existence of 1,000? right? Like you start to take numbers, or you can do 1 to 10, however you want to do it. But the idea is what makes those 10 more powerful and special and important than that one, right? And what makes it so that they can tell that one how to live their life or where to put their money or how to do whatever they want to do. And when you start to understand these things, when you really start to boil it down and it starts to sink in, you start to realize that everywhere around us are systems of coercion and conformity that take away people's ability to be true individuals. And this is what he was all about, is people bringing their individuality, people being who they are, and just, taking off the wrappings of what we consider to be acceptable society and moving forward with individuals being at the heart of every decision that we make. And I think that this is a beautiful, probably impossible, but somewhat beautiful idea, that the strength of the individual and the morality of an individual, right? Doing something that is moral, even though it's not required of you, is the true test of morality. If you don't commit crimes because you're worried about punishment, then you're not actually a moral person. You're just afraid of punishment. You're being coerced into behaving a certain way. And that may work for the grand scheme, but it doesn't exactly lead to a moral and just society. It leads to systems of force and coercion that make you behave in a certain way. And in that is the problem. Now, let's get to the quote. This is a longer one, so just stay with me. I know he speaks in a little bit old way, but just stay with me. I know that you'll understand this if you really try. I'm only going to read it once, though, so you got to pay attention. He said, "What is the work of a voluntarist? It is to destroy the love of power, to destroy, alike in himself and in his fellow men, the desire to force opinions or interests," force being the key word there, "whatever they may be, upon others, to be content to be a self-ruler, not a ruler of others, to strengthen belief in the moral weapons of reason, discussion, and example, to bear patiently many evils rather than to weaken at any point the principle of self-ownership and self-direction, and to live in the faith that there is no evil which cannot be overcome by courage and resolution, no moral failure that cannot be remedied, except the one evil, the one moral failure of abandoning ownership and self-direction. I understand that this is a difficult concept for some people because we have been indoctrinated into thinking otherwise. We have been told that ideas like this are destructive. We have been told over and over again by media, by schooling, and I don't, keep in mind, I did not say education there. I said schooling, by just the political apparatuses around us, by law enforcement. We have been told that if we just let people be who they are, that we will see the darkness and the evil in people, that we will see exactly how horrifying the people be if we don't have all of these systems of surveillance and coercion and control around us, that somehow people will just go fucking crazy, right? And to a certain degree, and I did that for a reason, there is an understanding in the Dark Knight movie, right? Like the way that the Joker says, he just assumes the worst in people. And that is kind of the point here, is that at some point you have to be willing to let go of your control over people, over their minds, and let them be who they are. And then you will see who they are. And you have to be willing to accept that. Whether it be good, whether it be bad, you give them the right to determine moralistically their own actions and their own behaviors. And yes, that could hurt people. But at the same time, you will never know if you're dealing with truly good people if you force them to behave a certain way. I know that that may seem like safety, but what it is creating a fucking stick of dynamite that's going to explode in your hand sooner or later. Happy birthday to Auberon Herbert. I could not possibly talk about it all here, but those are just some basic ideas. The rest of you, please, take care of yourself, take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.